This is a YouTube channel where we buy, maintain, and sell the world's best sports cars.
I'm Ross.
And I'm Rebecca.
And this is TitleMine.
America has always insisted on its own greatness, and to be honest, there's a lot to be impressed by here. But even with the world's largest highway system, there's only room for one greatest American supercar. Most will say it's the Ford GT. Others, the Saleen S7. Both are beautiful cars, but both of these cars have the drawback of costing as much as a very nice house. Ouch.
So what do you buy if you don't have a ton of money to spend? Well, it would be hard to do better than this. The Dodge Viper debuted in 1989 at the Detroit Auto Show. There, with a pedigree of automotive legends like Bob Butts and Carroll Shelby, it was the avatar of American recovery from bland forms and, well, underwhelming performance of the embargo era.
And the design was an immediate hit with the automotive press.
And with a huge number of buyers, despite being one of the least practical vehicles ever to make it out of the concept stage. Although the Viper's natural competition would have been the Corvette, specifically the ZR1 that debuted before it did, it was very rarely compared to it.
This form, this buffet of curves, was so exotic that it immediately ascended to a more rarefied company to be compared with the Lamborghini Diablo, the Ferrari 348, and the Ferrari 355.
Then, in 1996, Dodge one-upped itself with the debut of this Viper GTS. Although the RT10 was older, it was this car that became the Viper's DB5, the form that would define the brand. All of the other cars suddenly looked old and out of date. It's kind of like when you look back at pictures of Justin and Brittany from the 90s, you know, those ones where Justin's wearing all denim and he's got that ramen noodle hair. It's kind of fun to reminisce, but at the time, I'm sure he didn't realize how painfully uncool he'd look just a couple of years later.
In contrast, the Viper GTS is nearly 20 years old and has deftly resisted the ravages of time. Like the Miura or 993-911, it skipped over the entire phase of a car's life cycle where it looks dated next to its successors. With the support of a rabid fan base and ravishing good looks, Chrysler's Serpent went immediately to classic status.
When the brand relaunched as the SRT Viper in 2013, Dodge knew it was this shape that they needed to make their comeback.
Let's look under the hood. So what do we have here? An 8-liter single-cam, 20-valve V10 engine with push rods under a classic clamshell hood that weighs a ton, costs a ton, and is a ton of work to realign should the factory shims become displaced. This is the ACR edition, the hardcore track version that debuted in 1999. According to the window sticker, it costs about $10,000 more, which is about 10% of the total car cost. But what did you get for that money? You got lightweight BBS wheels, double adjustable Koni shocks, and a revised intake and filter system. Whoops, there's those shocks. Well, you also got a revised intake and filter system that added about 10 horsepower and 10 torque to the cars, making it 460 and 500 respectively. They also decided to remove the air conditioner and stereo, and in a move right out of Porsche's book, charged the customer about $1,000 to add them back in again.
Although our Viper retained most of its stock components, there has been one important addition made by the previous owner, which is what you're hearing now. A full Bellinger exhaust system, including headers, high-flow catalytic converters, and a catback. This car was always famous for boiling the occupants inside because of the heat that would build up in the sills from the catalytic converters. This car doesn't, thanks to these mods. It just sounds really awesome and goes really, really fast.
So what's it like to own a hardcore version of a car that's already in the dictionary under hardcore? Well, we've driven this car about 3,500 miles on rough country roads like this, highway, rain, and cold.
The gas consumption is absolutely unbelievable. You're reminded every time you stop at the pumps that this thing was designed to run with V12s from Italy and Germany, even if the only place that you've been running to is the grocery store.
The suspension stiffness is unimaginable for drivers of vanilla sedans. It's fully adjustable, but in practice, that amounts to the price of engineers asking if you'd like your brakes shaken or stirred.
It has a 4852 weight distribution, largely due to the rear wheels. Now they're a rotating mass and they're slightly off the median line, which means that driving this car feels a lot like driving a 90s 911.
People have often said that this car is difficult to drive, that it'll kill you in the rain, it'll kill you if you start off quickly from a light, it'll kill you if you turn it on and you're not paying attention. I haven't really found any of that to be true.
There's a lot of weight off the back end, but once you get used to it, it really has great control.
That gives you a little bit of sketchiness if you're not expecting it when you go around turns. Even after getting used to it, I still don't like the turn in very much. But on the way out, especially on the last third of the turn, this thing hooks up, plants, and goes. Of course, the Viper is synonymous with speed. And this thing comes up to the pedal. 0 to 60 takes around 4 seconds. The only thing that would stop me from using this as a daily driver, granted I'm young, I don't have children, I'm able to deal with the lack of compliance in the suspension and the low door entry a little bit better. But the only thing that would stop me from driving this every day is the ride height. This car is so low to the ground that I can't turn my hand sideways in the gap between the nose and the pavement when it's parked on a flat surface. The clearance is right around 3 inches. And the Viper is like a circus everywhere that you go. You hear people, running up behind you when you're not looking to take pictures of it. You see people follow you for miles with their phones out the window. You can't go to the gas station without talking to people. You cannot. It has never happened. The only thing that kind of taints the fun factor is the sense that it is a classic. I mean, unlike other cars that were produced in huge quantities, like a base model Porsche or a Mustang Cobra or something, you kind of feel the weight that every mile you're sort of consuming a limited resource, something that, once it's totaled, once it's run through its useful life, it'll be gone. And the more you drive it, you feel like you're kind of taking part of that away. I've tried not to let it get to me though.
This second-generation hardtop Viper maintains the wild and woolly soul of the original, but offers suspension and handling improvements that made it a true contender on the global stage. It's far from perfect. Your shoes scuff the rocker panels when you climb in. The door swings out so wide that you park at the end of the lot to protect other cars. Your knee hits the hard plastic bolster incessantly if you're tall, a painful reminder of the car's low-rent interior. And the alarm goes off when you try to open the trunk without unlocking the doors, which can be embarrassing.
But if you can overlook these faults, for less than the price of a new M4, you can get your hands on a machine that draws the attention of a Lamborghini, delivers the thrills of a GT3, and is as dependable as a Ford Focus. It is, without question, one of the best road cars in American history.
Have other questions about the Viper? Feel free to ask in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe.